Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais, and my co-host, Andrew Bobo, is on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. Hey, welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast. We are having absolute hell with Skynet today, completely kicking our butt with technology, but you know, roll with the punches, figure stuff out.
So, funny story. So when you just started that whole roll-in, it went through the other channel.
Of course it did.
So right now you're on my cell phone because I had to call you because it's for some reason. But when you did the whole roll-in, I could hear it in the kitchen. So I came on I don't remember it that high, and it was coming through the computer side.
Like through your computer speakers?
No, it was coming through the P4 into the USB into the P4, and then through that port, through the computer port. It was going through my speakers because I had it cranked all the way up because I didn't know if that was going on.
Okay, so in other words, after Andrew pours himself a drink, because we've just had a very, very emotional last half hour.
Jeez, it wasn't that bad, was
it? But yeah, I guess you and I will have some stuff to troubleshoot because that's interesting. But anyway.
So Joe said I'm really scratchy. Joe, am I still scratchy?
Joe? Gain is way up. I don't think mine is.
Mine is, I'm talking and it's right in the middle of the road. Wrestle bad.
I don't know what wrestle is. Says Andrew is really scratchy. Okay, so here's the long and the short of why Andrew is so bad. Andrew, give me a sound check.
Check 1, 2.
Okay.
Technology sucks.
Yes. So what's really happening here is
Kyle said it sounds good.
Yeah. Well, the problem is Andrew is not talking to us through his mic through the internet. He's talking to us through a freaking cell phone because his P4, his equipment has decided it does not want to communicate with his computer. So we're looking at him on a webcam, but he's talking to me on a cell phone.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But Andrew and I weren't going to do much talking in this show anyway. We really wanted to have my wife.
The better looking. If I like how you just tried to take her out of the webcam.
Right.
Well, no, you're like, oh.
Nope, I just twisted the screen the wrong direction because the webcam's on the top of it.
Good cover.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's certainly the prettiest of the bunch of us. I mean, you know, contest.
Anyway.
I was 10 years younger, I swear.
Shut up. All right, let's get to Prepper Camp because this is getting weird.
This turns really red. So, no, go ahead, Phil.
Well, I was just going to say, the whole point of the show, we wanted to do this. For us, it was a couple weeks ago. For the listeners, it was also a couple weeks ago. I've been out of the seat for a little bit because I had some family issues to take care of. We'll probably talk about that at a later date once I've had some time to, process some things and, deal with all that. But I think there's good lessons come out of it. I'm just not ready to talk about it. Everything's fine. It's just, it was a little wild for a minute. But we were going to talk with Gillian about Prepper Camp because it was my 5th year there. I think Andrew's been there 4 years. A lot of us that go to Prepper Camp every year were regular attendees, but for Gillian and my daughter, it was their first year there. So I thought it'd be interesting, from the eyes and through the experiences of a first timer, a Prepper Camp newbie, what was that experience like? Because I could tell you about my Prepper Camp experience the first time. It was a world of fun, but for you, I feel like you got a lot, not more, but you got a lot out of it that I couldn't have given you any other way.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can't be 30 different presenters and a whole area for vendors and all that stuff. So yeah, there's the whole experience of just being around people that, hi Nia, that think like you and live their life like you, and it's not just you and I going off of each other, or Andrew being incorporated in that, or whatever. So it actually just really opened my eyes to, well, I'm kind of jumping ahead. There was a lot of people there that thought and lived their life the same way that we do. But from what I understand is this year was a lot more people than what has been there in the past years. And so Prepper Camp continues to grow, and I love that. And it was packed. Like, I mean, it wasn't like uncomfortably packed, but it was packed from what I understand. And a lot of people that were not gatekeeping their information, and they just wanted to talk to you. And a lot of times we were all kind of focused on timing and all that stuff, because you had all these classes you could go to. And Phil was a real trooper, and he went to the classes that Piper and I wanted to go to, even though that's not the interest that he has. And so, but some of them I think you took away something from it, even though we went and sat through the foraging mushrooms class, and I don't think that's one that Phil would have picked for himself had I not been there. But now it's something that I can go back and say, oh yeah, do you remember what he said in that class? And Phil and I can kind of bounce off of each other. But what really shocked me is how much information Piper retained. And when we left that class, she wanted to go on a hike and find the mushroom. She was ready to forage and ready to collect, and I thought that was so awesome. And my enthusiasm has, like Phil said, stayed at an 11 since we got back, but Piper's has stayed up at an 11 too. Like, she's ready to go foraging, and she's ready to do all those things. So
no, going off of the mushrooms, it's interesting that you said that, because I'm in the process. I'm looking it up online. I'm gonna buy. It's a book for. I gotta find it. Trek had it. So Trek found behind his house in the woods there. I think it's called Chicken of the Woods,
yes,
if I remember right. And he found I think he said like 4 pounds or some crap like that. And I was reading on it, I was researching it, and yeah, it looks kind of like something else that's poisonous, but like Trek had this book, and I got to find out the name of it from him. Yeah, I'm gonna get that book, because the idea of, you can't, foraging from the woods is not sustainable. As far as getting like the plants and vegetables and stuff like that, mushrooms. If you had plants, mushrooms, vegetables, and meat all the time, it's definitely sustainable. Our ancestors did it for thousands of years. And so, but to learn some of that stuff, and that's the thing, is like we've gotten so far away from learning anything like this, to where, like, you look at like morels up here in Michigan, you have the healthy morels, and then you have the ones that are actually dangerous.
Yeah.
And there's a couple different mushrooms like that, and there's a lot that you just stay away from. But yeah, it just like berries. I remember growing up, like raspberries, like you'd go into and you'd find like a wild raspberry, blackberry bush, sit there mowing down, and all of a sudden, like, it merges into like the little small, like little red berries. And I've always been told, don't eat those.
And see, Andrew, it's interesting that you say that, because I was always told those things too. But the people that led these classes were very, they were very, not quick, I wouldn't say quick, but they informed you that a lot of the stuff that we grew up being told don't eat, it was a total, like, they just didn't want, our parents didn't want us to do that. So, but the mushroom thing, and I kind of disagree with you a little bit. I think foraging, if you have the proper equipment, so like we have our dehydrator, and you can do all sorts of things, but you can forage enough and then put it away to be sustainable.
I think the real hitch with sustainability as far as foraging is you have to look back in history to like hunter-gathering societies and realize that they would send an entire village out into the woods to go forage and look for berries and mushrooms and everything else. But that was done with the understanding of not like it takes that many people to collect enough to feed a whole village, but with the understanding that half the people are going to come home empty-handed. So I think that when you look at sustainability, it's not in terms of like keeping it, because the nature should provide, but it's more of a, if you are the sole person going out to forage and you come up empty-handed enough times, that's going to have a deleterious effect on your family unit.
Absolutely. The other thing that I'm really trying to get into, I'm going to take a class in December on medicinal herbs and things that just grow outside in the woods that tried to kill us during Ida. There's so much out there that I've just been going through going, okay, wow, this really has some great properties to it. And you can harvest all sorts of things that just grow outside in the woods. I mean, of course, don't go and forage in a place that you think could be dangerous or anything like that. Let me put my disclaimer out there, especially if you think it's been sprayed with pesticides and all that stuff. But I think it's something that our family, it's definitely turned me. I've bought my herbal remedy books. I've got my foraging books for mushrooms, all that stuff. And so I've really dived in to this and reading as much as I can and doing as much research as I can, especially in the foraging and the medicinal herbs section.
Yeah, but to me, the most important part of this whole thing is that, like Andrew and I have
always says weed. I'm sorry. Yes, Kyle, weed.
But like Andrew and I have always said, like the thing about prepper camp and prepping in general is that it's a lifestyle. It's not an activity. So there's all these different facets to it, and some people get into homesteading, some people are into sustainability, some people are into foraging, some people. I mean, everybody has their own thing, their own aspect of prepping that they embrace. And I told Gillian going into this, I'm like, I really think you and Piper are going to pick classes. I never would, but it's going to be things that speak to you, to your interests, and you're going to take that home, and now we as a family have an entire new set of skills that they're interested in, that Gillian is continuing to seek continuing education on, that's going to make the family better prepared. And it's not things that I couldn't have done, but it's just not my focus, not my area of expertise.
Well, but also, like you were talking about, like Piper and how much she got engaged with it, and I've like when I came down and visit you guys and finally got to meet Piper and stuff, like she's her way of thinking and like the way she processes things, like I think it's unique for her age, and I think the way she kind of approached prepper camp is, I think she almost kind of approached it as an activity, though, as something fun, something new, and I really feel like if you guys can engage her down there, especially with Gillian, like you get in this book and you guys can go through the woods and say, hey, this is edible, this isn't, this all this, you can identify this stuff. It gives her mind something to do, and it gives her mind it gives it something to latch onto, and she loves learning. And that's one thing that you guys really stressed out. We talk a lot about how much she loves to learn, and even when I talked to her and stuff when I was down there, like she loves to learn. Like she's constantly asking questions. She's curious. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome at her age. Like that's awesome, and getting her out in the woods is even better. Like I think that's great for any kid to be out in the woods, but turning this into a fun activity can also help engage her on a different level as well. Yeah, and it makes it fun for her. So it's almost like a scavenger hunt, almost like a treasure hunt. And,
we're going down the road and she's looking outside the window just trying to see what she can see. But, she took a lot away from that. She picked the classes that she wanted to do, and we let her kind of drive prepper camp this year, mainly because her and I wanted to take a lot of the same classes, but I didn't tell her beforehand. So I thought it was interesting that she picked a lot of the same classes that I was interested in. But there was one class, it was the tanning hide class. Phil stepped back and he was talking to Rick and one of the listeners for the podcast, and I was cold because it was cold, but it wasn't Michigan cold. So I sat in the sun and she stayed under the tent, and Andrew, she's got like a notebook out and she's taking notes. Like she's going to go home and kill a squirrel and tan it. And, you know.
I see that. I want pictures.
Yeah. I mean, she was intense, like taking notes in her notebook. And I'm like, all right. I took a picture of her mainly because I wanted her teachers to see, hey, we didn't just go lollygagging and take her out of school for 3 days. Like she's literally taking classes right now.
But that's the thing, though. Like, I don't want to try. I'm not cutting you off because I don't want to cut you off. Anyway, no. But things like this need to be taught in school nowadays.
And it's not. It's no. And I think you know, you could dive down that rabbit hole of homeschooling or private education or maybe some public school systems that still teach this kind of stuff, but it's not taught. And it kind of goes back to what you said earlier, where our generation was told you don't eat those things because you're going to die. And why were we told that stuff? Mainly, it was just a fear maybe for our parents and our grandparents. I don't know. I remember being told that. But then come to find out, oh, you're not going to die. It's actually beneficial for you and could give you a lot of the nutrients that you don't get in your diet anymore. I mean, maybe there is a bigger pharmaceutical hashtag, I'm not hashtags, like slash.
Conspiracy theory?
Yeah, there's like these big conspiracy theories that were being developed at that time. But I don't know. Piper and I have this little joke between us now, and because I was telling her, I was like, you know, there were women long ago that used to do this. They used to forage, and they'd have a cabin in the woods, and they'd have all these things drying and hanging from the rafters in their little cabin, and they were considered a witch. And Piper goes, so we're witches? And I was like, we're good witches. We'll forage, but I think there's something to that. A long time ago, these women were they knew what the plants were and the benefits that you could get from them. And something I've always told to Phil is that I'm a firm believer that God has given us everything on this earth that we need to survive, and there are so many, I think that he said 40,000 species of mushrooms on Earth, and you're going to tell me that all of them are going to kill me? I just don't believe it. Like,
well, I mean, going off of that statement, it was more of, like, I was raised to where not everything will kill you. Morels, I grew up eating morels and stuff like that. Raspberries, blackberries, finding the wild ones and everything.
Yeah.
But when it came to certain ones, like you'd see like the little red berries, you know, like the purple red berries that you'd see on the trees. The birds love them, but I remember growing up, it was don't eat those. It's like crap your pants out. Like,
yeah.
It'll really mess up your stomach. But that's the thing is like with in today's generation, in today's world, it makes me want. I mean, I want to get outside more. It's just like, you know, life and work and adulting gets in the way, but at the same time, like I've had a couple different books in my Amazon cart for probably about 2 years now, just because like I've had them in the cart. I've been wanting to buy them, but they've been buried now, and so now that we're talking about it, I'm like, I should go tonight and actually just buy those and get them now and just buy them now and get them sent to me. Yeah,
I have found it so interesting, just what I've been reading in the last month since Prepper Camp. You know, you can go pick the blackberries, but you can also use the leaves, and the leaves have medicinal purposes to them. And
roots do too, you know,
roots of all sorts of, like you can eat the whole dandelion plant and it's so good for you. But I don't know, there's just, it was overwhelming. I will say that Prepper Camp was overwhelming, and there was a lot of people that we spoke to that said the same thing, but it wasn't a scary overwhelming. It was one of those, I knew that we had opened up Pandora's box, and we just had to shift through it and figure out what we wanted to chip away at. And so for me, I've picked the homeopathic, herbals and all that stuff, and gardening and just focusing on that. And then I think once I feel comfortable enough with that, I'm going to move on to the other things that the classes we took. I don't think I'll ever really get into blacksmithing, but my God, what an interesting class that was, you know?
Right.
Will I ever tan hides? Probably not, but I know that I need brains to tan hides now. Like, it was really interesting, and there was a lot, and like Phil said in the episode that y'all did, released on Wednesday, was it? Wednesday or Thursday. Y'all weren't, it was the live that y'all did recently, but you weren't there. It was not really live.
Oh, yeah.
Newbies. Yeah, he was calling them newbies and things like that. But
Oh, yeah.
a lot. I can't say if they were newbies or not, but just, I mean, it looked like there were some people that maybe got lost on a country road and decided, oh, that looks fun, let's go down there.
I call them normies.
Normies, not newbies. I'm the newbie.
and understand that I always have to preface this by saying that when I say normie, it is not a pejorative. It's a little bit tongue in cheek, because I mean it's the average person who isn't firmly embedded in this lifestyle or is just coming into this mindset, and it's not even like a person that's new to it. It's just a person that, like, it's a normal person, which is the weird thing to say. It's a normal person, but like that's the thing. That's the comic Gillian I've had dropped in our laps a few times. It's like, wow, y'all are so normal, and I'm like, I never thought I would take normal as a compliment, but based on your tone, I will.
Well, and I think Prepper Camp is a place where, I mean, you go to the classes and they have 45 minutes to kind of get the spiel out and kind of hey, this is what I'm interested in, you should be too, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But all it is they just sprinkle like a little bit of like that, the starter fluid on your brain.
Yeah.
And then you take away what you want, and then the whole point of the class is like, that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep learning. And that was the whole point of the classes. And that's the whole point of Prepper Camp, is to get people who don't know necessarily maybe where to start or look at topics of, I never thought about looking at foraging mushrooms. And now you have that in your head. And now, I mean, they sprayed that starter fluid on you, and you're kind of like, hey, I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get going. I'm going to research the crap out of it. And that's what you're doing. And that's ultimately, like, that means, in my eyes, Prepper Camp was a success. If you go home and you start researching this stuff on your own, it was a success. Like, the whole point of you going was awesome. So, I mean, what else did you take from it? Like, as far as, because I know going there, seeing everybody, seeing everything set up, I'm sure it could be definitely overwhelming. But like, I mean, because Phil, he's been telling you about this for 4 years now, and he finally got you to go. So like, what made you want to go?
Well, one, I didn't want to spend another long weekend without Phil at home. So, I know. There was a lot of different things. I wanted to go camping in the mountains of North Carolina, and I wanted to be with Phil, and I wanted us to have this little vacation. But I was at the point in my prepper lifestyle where I wanted to be with people that were like-minded, and Andrew, I'll tell you what, when your aunt and uncle got there, it was like, finally I get to hug your neck, and it's like they're family. And then I think your cousins, Bella and her mom, and
my cousin Amanda and
Amanda,
kids.
yeah. I've never met them before. I've never spoke to them a day in my life, but we left, and it was just kind of like, everybody was so sad. It was like a family reunion, and I've never met the family members. Or I've maybe talked to them a few times. It was nice to be able to surround myself and to speak freely with people that weren't going to judge me or think, well, why are you taking that class? Or, hell, why are you even here? Because we were all there for a mission. And
you're like-minded.
Yeah, you're like-minded, and somebody said it, Kyle said it in the chat, it's a community, and everybody brings something to the table, but you're also bringing that camaraderie, and I tell you what, it really made me want to buy some land and build a compound with just our folks, and take away, like, everyone else. Like, we don't need anybody else, we'll build our own community, and everybody will get a certain job, whatever. But I'm glad I went, and I want to go back. I'm excited to go back. It's almost made us think of how could we have this closer to home here. And I love to see, I have a friend that I didn't realize that she was kind of in this lifestyle too. And yeah, Joe, I'm hooked now, absolutely. but they're leading a class on herbal remedies and things just north of us, and I'm going to take it, and I think it's sold out, and I think that is I'm just so excited because I told Phil today, I was like, there's going to be women there that are like me, and I get
and they're close to you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, though, is like you're expanding your community, you're expanding your mutual assistance group, because if who knows where that might lead, because the biggest thing, I mean, whether you bug in, bug out, whatever the case is, you cannot succeed and you will not survive if you're by yourself. The whole lone wolf mentality, it's overrated, it's overplayed, and it's not feasible.
Well, I mean, we learned that lesson during Hurricane Ida. We were up to our eyeballs in problems, and we didn't get a lot of them rectified until we had family come in from North Louisiana to help us out. And I mean, that was one of the takeaways, Gil, and I had after Hurricane Ida was, can you imagine how much better this would have been if our relief was 20 or 30 minutes down the road instead of, a day and a half to drive in? I mean, it was one of the sobering moments where, yes, every prep we had put into place came in super handy, but we still had holes. And everybody's going to have holes. We all admit that. But I just think to myself, I'm like, yeah, if we'd have been in a situation where we had a MAG, 4 or 5 families in the local area, I imagine every last one of us would have had problems. But we would have been able to all rally around each other and say, how much faster could we get this done if we have 5 families worth of able-bodied people working on each property? We could have cleared each property in a day. A day each property.
But then you have those 5 families too of, hey, I'm out of this, thinking herbal or whatever, or you have those people that understand your lifestyle
and take it down a notch out of prepping and say, hey, my significant other is sick. Could somebody bring me some groceries? Or, hey, does anybody mind babysitting? I mean, a MAG is more than just a prepping group. It's literally like an extended family if you do it right. And that's why it's been one of those things that I've kind of had in the back of my brain for a while of, how do we find these other families in this area that we know are like us? We're not the only ones.
And I'm hoping that this class will open up that door to finding other families that are like us in our area. But as far as prepper camp goes, it was like a family reunion. And Andrew, we missed the hell out of you, and I wish that you could have been there. But the feeling I got at our last bonfire, that last night, what was it, Sunday night, I think it was?
Yep.
Everyone is telling everyone their goodbyes, and we're just kind of, the adrenaline has dumped, and we're kind of just settling in or whatever, and we know that we all have these big, long drives ahead of us tomorrow. Some of us were flying back to other parts of the world, which I find so awesome that she came all the way from Australia. Not just for prepper camp, but for this too. But it was, to me, it felt like I have to tell my family goodbye now, and it's super sad. And I won't see them again for another year. So that's one that, I mean, I don't know how to unpack it in the time that I have.
Right.
Why I
You'll
went.
You'll still be unpacking it by next year. By
I
prepper
will.
Camp of next year, you're going to be like, okay, do I want to take this class again?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're gonna remember the prepper camp this year, and you're gonna be like, okay, I took mushrooms. I'm gonna take that again. And the thing is, though, is like with some of these classes, sometimes like they do alter their stuff, especially if it's somebody new. I mean, look at I'm drawing a blank now on the class.
Well, the example I use,
but yeah,
the example I use as far as classes changing every year isn't even the curriculum. It's just the organic part of the class. It's Nick DeVratos with Red Eye Reloading.
Yeah,
because
that's what I was thinking of. You
do get this mix of people that are brand new to reloading. They have tons of questions, and there are no stupid questions when you're making miniature explosive devices, which is what a piece of ammunition is. If you screw it up, it's a miniature explosive device. And there are people who are missing digits because of it. But the questions you get drive the conversation. And then you inevitably, in every class, you get that one veteran reloader who's not looking to one-up the instructor, but like the instructor will get to a part of the course and say, this is my opinion, and then the other opinion comes out, and that is an organic part of the class that the instructor can't plan for. So that's why I say, like, yeah, if it's something you're really interested in, taking the class a second time is really interesting because of just the flow of the conversation, the questions, because the questions, by far and large, if you have a question in prepper camp, it gets answered. If it doesn't get answered in that class, you could probably go to that person's vendor booth or tag them for 5 minutes after class, and they'll fill your head full. I mean, it's a great experience. I've been trying to twist somebody's arm for years as a result to get her to come.
I know, and we had our own issues, and you know, we didn't want to bring a baby up there and do all that. But shush your mouth. I do want to acknowledge Joe's question though. Is an RV doable at prepper camp? And the answer is yes, it is doable.
Right. But know in advance, the RV spots are extremely, I don't want to say they're hard to come by. There's a huge competition for those RV spots. So if you want to go to prepper camp next year and you want to do an RV, I'm telling you right here now, you better get in touch with Orchard Lake right now. Get on a waiting list right now. Get your tickets the first day they're available. Call Orchard Lake. Like this is not something you're going to try to pull off 4 months in advance. You're going to have to really be Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, we were calling on Monday. Like as we checked out, we were waiting for that number to call or whatever.
Well,
but what I was going to say, Joe, is because you have prepper camp in quotes, your level of prepping does not exclude you from prepper camp. If you are more comfortable in an RV because all of the RV sites were packed, then bring your RV. I told Phil, you can laugh at me all you want. I'm bringing my air mattress. I'm bringing my blankets because I'm not sleeping in this little sleeping bag thing, although it was so cold that I wish I'd had my cold weather sleeping bag.
Guess who wasn't cold, guys? The one in the negative 20 degree rated mummy bag that Gillian didn't want to sleep in because it keeps her feet and legs pressed together. And I was warm as a tick in a blanket. It was perfect. It was beautiful.
Did you give her the sleeping bag the next night?
No, he gave it to Piper.
No, she brought her daggum blanket. She had to learn her lesson. No,
although what I did do though, Andrew, was I just kept inching closer and closer to him so that I could steal his warmth, and then finally he pushed me out. Like he pushed me back.
Time out. She's not telling the story the way it really went down. Husbands out there, you know what I'm saying when I say she's not telling the story the way it went down. What happened was I had about 14 and a half inches of the edge of the air mattress, and somebody was booty bumping me.
I was cold.
Booty bumping me closer and closer to the edge. So I had to now I'm in a mummy bag, so my hands are against my chest, my feet are pressed together. I'm like the world's largest earthworm. So it's not like I can push back against her or brace myself. So I literally in the middle of the night, to avoid face planting on the floor between my air mattress and Piper's, I had to roll myself aggressively towards her to shove her to her side of the mattress.
Onto the other side.
So that I wouldn't get shoved onto the floor next to the air mattress.
Well, I just wanted...
It was self-defense.
I was about to treat you like a tauntaun and crawl in, unzip, and crawl in.
Crawl into your stomach.
I was so
Any
cold.
of you Star Wars fans know what she's saying. It was serious.
So I've been researching, I don't need another tent, but I've been actually researching the hot tents with basically the tent with so you can actually get a stove, a small portable stove.
Yep.
I've been researching those, and if we do go to prepper camp next year, I'm actually thinking about, and it varies. The temperature every year has never been the same. There's been years where it's poured on us. There's been years where it's been nice during the day, cold at night,
80
cold during
degrees
the day,
in the middle of the
whatever.
night.
Yeah.
The weather is bipolar up there.
Yeah, and so I was actually thinking about bringing, depending on everything, if we go again and stuff, I was actually thinking about getting this tent and this stove by next year, and trying that out. because
Well,
it's like, okay, I love my sleeping bag. I have a 30-degree sleeping bag. I have the -20. I love those 2 sleeping bags, but
Well, I tell you what, Andrew, you, Joe, and Phil can all go sleep in the tent. Me, Piper, and Joe's wife will take the RV, and then whoever else, like, we'll make it work. I don't mind sleeping in a tent. I'm about to get a divorce. I can see it coming. I do not prefer sleeping in a tent. I don't prefer it. It's not my first choice.
I just bought a house. You're more than welcome up here.
Oh, God. You're so bad.
You have options.
I will say this much. Our friend Willow, because she's still in witness protection, Willow across the way from us, she had probably
that woman.
She had a tent probably as big as like ours, which was a 6-man tent just for herself, and she had a no BS electric heater in the tent with an extension cord running out to the power pole
And a fan.
Box fan.
Because it wasn't cold every night, but it was, I mean, you have to have that. And I was really upset that we didn't bring a fan, but then you could hear her fan from over the, across the street. So it worked out fine. But then when it got into the 40s, that fan turned off quick and that heater came on. And then I'm in our tent that morning. I'm sorry, this is totally
with the Tauntaun.
Well, no, the Tauntaun has left to go make his coffee, and me and Piper are freezing. So I plug in the hairdryer into the Jackery, trying to warm us up.
Nice.
It didn't work very well, but
she found out really quickly that Jackery does not like that hairdryer, because I mean the Jackery it'll handle 1500 watts starting current or starting usage, but that hairdryer pulls so much current it overloads the AC circuit.
It got us warm enough.
Yeah. I mean,
it would have been better in one of those little cabins down the street.
Well, tell Piper tough luck and just take that. You should have took the hairdryer and just like stuck the nozzle in your sleeping bag and warmed up your sleeping bag, and then be like, sorry, Piper.
No, because what I was doing, I was being the very sweet mom and warming up her leggings and her shirt, and because we didn't sleep with our clothes in our bags like we should have.
I did.
Did you?
Yes. I went, like most of those nights, I was asleep in my sleeping bag, wearing my pants and my shirt, and just, I'd shower, put on clean clothes, no socks, and I'd get in there, and then in the mornings, because I've done this before, I would have my socks and my boots and my sweater, like, sitting at the foot of the bed, so I would just grab my stuff, walk on out, start making coffee, and get dressed outside. But, I mean, that's why I told you and Piper after the first day, I was like, you will both appreciate it more if you just get in your sleeping bags dressed. And Piper even went back into her sleeping bag after the first night. She slept with a sweater on, and that helped a lot.
She actually put like more than just her PJs on to sleep the next night. Joe, I brought a hairdryer.
She brought makeup.
Because do you see this hair?
It's gotta look good.
Okay. I don't take my shower in the morning. I like to take my shower at night. And so I knew that it was going to be in the 40s at least 1 or 2 nights. And I did not want to go to bed with frigid, cold, wet hair. So I brought my hairdryer to dry it.
Just
and I'm
take Phil's haircut.
Yeah, I'm going to shave, 6 years of hair growth off.
So
at this point,
I just want
coming out
to.
of my face is not much shorter than hair on your head.
And we're actually right across from what is it called?
The shower.
The showers and the toilets and all that. What is that called? The comfort station?
Restroom?
Whatever. Yes, that thing. Where you go. Stuart, it could be a little form of glamping, and that's okay. Y'all can judge me all you want.
So I want to go back to Joe's comment, because this is the same guy who said he wants to bring an RV to the campsite. So I'm just going to throw him out. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I'm defending you, Gillian.
Thank you.
But like Phil and I have talked. We want to talk to Rick, because the campsite's pulling some shady crap as far as getting campsites and stuff like that. This is the second year that's part of the reason why I didn't go this year, because I was kind of upset with that campsite. But that being said, I mean, if we do go next year, I'm going next year. If you guys are, and we ended up going, but no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really curious to see what you guys come away with on the second year, because that's where Phil and I, like, the first year is very overwhelming, and even Phil and I, we had that same thing. There's just so much going on. There's no way you can fit every single class in that you want to do. You're busy, especially with the camping, and you want to talk to people, and you want to, and that's the thing, and that's what's nice about the 3 days, because it's 3 days long. The same schedule all 3 days. So if you get talking to somebody and you're like, oh crap, I missed my class today, as long as you don't have a class in that same slot that you want to go to, then you're okay. But yeah, it's definitely an eye opener, and you definitely take away a lot. I mean, there's stuff from the first class I remember taking when the first year we were there. We took a class with Forrest about the internet security and stuff like that. And that class, I still refer back to that class, and I still tell people about not necessarily about that class, but I tell them about what we learned in that class, about how to protect yourself online a little bit better. If you want, if you don't want to use your debit card or credit card, how to go, it's like privacy.com. You can, all this stuff. Like, I'm constantly talking to people and like referring back to that class in my head, and I'm telling them about stuff. And so the classes will stick with you, especially if it's something that's interesting, such as like the mushrooms and stuff like that, and foraging. That will stick with you. And like I said, next year, you're going to find yourself, hey, let's go for a walk and let's see what we can do. Let's see what I've learned over this last year. And then also it's like, well, hey, maybe I'll take this class again if it's offered. Or if there's another foraging class, like, there's another foraging class. What can I take? And so I'm really curious to see what you do if we go like the next year. And same thing with Piper, because she's gonna be a year older. Her interests are gonna change, and she's gonna try to figure out, and she's gonna want to learn something else. And that's the thing is like, I know she won't come on the show, but what was her attitude towards the whole thing up to prepper camp? Like, did she ever change her mind? Like, is she like, oh, I don't want to go? Or was she always like, was she 100% like, hey, I want to go and do this?
She stabbed the brakes on me maybe a week before we got up there. She just all of a sudden got cold feet and said, I really don't want to go to prepper camp. And I was
I'll tell you why.
Why?
She did not want to miss school because she knew it would mean makeup work.
True.
And Piper doesn't like to miss school at all.
No, she's... I will say this much.
It'd come in handy if you guys have homeschooled her.
Well,
right.
we've had that experience. It was difficult homeschooling, because I find that homeschooling her, we're going to get way off subject if I go down that road.
Yeah.
Homeschooling her is difficult because it's home, and she needs some kind of separation between home and school. Otherwise, she starts to kind of get in her head that I'm home, I don't want to do schoolwork, if that makes sense. But anyway, but like I said, she she stabbed the brakes on me real hard, said she didn't want to go, and I was like, well, it's a little late to make that decision. Like, the die have been rolled. We are going. So I sat her down with a class schedule. I said, honey, just look at the classes, pick some ones that you think might be interesting. She picked 8 classes. Turned out they were most of the exact same ones Gillian would have picked if it had been totally in her hands. So I mean, it was a very serendipitous and interesting turn of events that my wife and daughter's brains are wired up that much alike, that with no prompting or direction or anything, the classes she picked were most of the ones Gillian wanted. But like, she picked 8 classes just in a row, and she was like, all these look fun, I want to do all these. And she was genuinely chomping at the bit to go and learn these things. Like, and it's stuff like blacksmithing. Do I think I'm gonna be building her a forge anytime soon? No, but she was interested, and it drove her to go. And the other thing, it was really fun to watch, if not like a little like terrifying, because I'm her dad, I have a little girl, but she was okay, I'll be kind, but let's just say that another one of the families out there that we all know very well And I love the family to death, all of them. They're good people, and I have no reason to, think that there's anything untoward. But, like, she made friends with a little boy about her age out there, and they were freaking inseparable. Going fishing together and just hanging out around the around the campsite. And, like, she just fell in with another kid her age that turned out they had similar enough, I guess, because of their backgrounds, because of who their parents are, they had enough common ground to, like, really hit it off and be friends, and it was fun to watch. But
so what she did is she took all of her classes the first day that she could fit in, and then she started skipping classes.
Skipping
school to go play with her new friend and go fishing and go for hikes.
This is going nowhere good.
I actually went and talked to the little boy's mother, who, again, is a good friend of mine. I love her to death. And I was like, you know that I like your kid, right? Kids, both of them. But this one in particular.
But I need to threaten him right now, just in case. No.
It wasn't like that, but I told her, like, I love your kid to death, right? Like, good kid. But I do have to admit, I have a certain feeling about him and my daughter in a canoe fishing together. And she just laughed.
It was good. Funny. And but the thing is, she made a friend who lives the same lifestyle as she does.
Right.
And not just has the same interests or some of the same interests. I mean, they're not going to mesh up, perfectly. But it again goes back to, it was like they've grown up together their whole life. There was no weirdness except for that very first, do you know where he is, and will you walk down there with me? And then once that happened, does anybody know where my child is? That was I kept asking, has anybody seen the children?
Well, the thing is, though, too, is what's nice about prepper camp, is it reminded me of just the old days where, and I say old days because, I mean, I'm 30, I'll be 38, and Phil, you just turned the big 4-0.
Yes.
Not throwing you under the bus or nothing.
Oh,
but,
throw me in front of it, run me over, back up, hit me again.
But when we were kids, it was nothing for us to go outside and play and have friends and, like, go outside all day long and play. And our parents didn't care. They weren't worried about us. They weren't worried about, are they getting abducted? They weren't worried about any of this crap. And prepper camp really feels like that because, I mean, yeah, you're still keeping an eye on your kid to a point a little bit, but I remember when I went, like, the last 4 years, Phil, we've seen the kids are running all over the place, and they're playing, they're fishing, they're swimming, they're canoeing, they're doing kids stuff.
Yeah.
And that is awesome. I like seeing that because it just takes you back to, and it just reminds you that, like, hey, there are good people in this world. I'm surrounded by good people, for the most part, that you know of. I mean, I try not to cast that net too far because you don't want to, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of trusting everybody. But as far as the people that are there that are sitting next to you, they haven't done anything to harm me. They haven't done anything to harm somebody there. They're good people in my eyes. And so, until they do something to change that. But letting your kid run off and play with other kids, that, like, okay, I want to keep an eye on her. I want to make sure she's okay. Like, I want to check up. But at the same time, you're like, I know she's fine. I can trust her. She's 9 years old. I can do, I know she's fine. Or she's 10, sorry.
Going on 21.
You got to give her that year.
Going on 21. Yeah. No, she's probably, if she heard that, man, don't tell her I said she was 9.
Well, and what we did, because it is a large campground. I mean, it's nice, and it's in the hills, and there's ponds, and there's different places that they can all go. But she had her walkie-talkie, and we had ours, and she would check in, and we would check in, but the good thing was,
just like, take your cell phone, take your walkie-talkie.
Yeah, well, she no cell phone, so
Well, but not just that, but I mean, we've. I will say this much. I was about to say cell service is spotty up there. It's gotten a hell of a lot better just in the last year. Like, I think it was Thursday night. It was the night I got there. I got curious, and usually, you remember when the first year we went out there, you had to go to just the right spot up on the top of the hill, hold your phone and your mouth just the right way to make it connect. And
Kick
like
the tree next to you.
Dude, I was up there on top of the hill pulling like 12 megs downstream. I was super impressed at how good the cell service was. Now, once there was a few hundred people out there, I think that cell tower got a little bit irritated because it dropped down about half a meg. But regardless, the little Motorola T800s we have, I mean, I'd be up on top of the hill. Piper would be down in the valley by prepper camp, and that's a few hundred yards line of sight. Worked just fine.
But the thing is,
keep in touch with her.
But the thing is, though, too, is with that is, I mean, you have the Motorola's and the walkie-talkies and stuff, but the one thing that I think would be interesting to look into would be mesh networks. Like you have these devices that you can connect to your phone, and once they're connected, and you have enough connected, you have a half a dozen people with them, it creates this mesh network, and it allows you guys to talk to each other, and it's an encrypted line. And so that would be something interesting to look into too. But I mean, no, I mean, it sucked because when I heard that, when you told me that Gillian and Piper were going, I was like, yeah, cool, because I've every year I've asked Phil, why aren't they coming? Like, try to get them to come. Why aren't they coming? Like, it'd be awesome if they were here
every year.
Yeah, and so it sucks not doing that, but hopefully we'll see. But we still have the camping trip and stuff around April. That we'll do too, but no, I'm glad you guys went out. I'm really happy that you guys went out, and I'm happy that Piper, because I was really nervous. I wasn't really nervous about you. I was more nervous about because I was really wanting to know what Piper would think about it, because she's a kid. So
yeah,
and and it's just so what's gonna happen? I'd hate for you guys get out there and her have a miserable time the whole entire weekend that she's out there, and then basically if she doesn't want to go next year, it's okay, well, what do you do? That kind of thing. And I mean, so I'm glad that she had fun. I'm glad that you had fun, and I'm really hoping that Piper takes this and keeps running with it, and wants to run with it and wants to learn too, because that will help you guys out immensely, having 3 like-minded individuals in the house. But going back to the whole mutual assistance group, I mean, we've said this a ton, Phil, where the PBN crew with the network that we're on, the Proper Broadcasting Network, I mean, we've said it when we were there that it's we wish we could just have this group of people on a compound, or in a group, just a chunk of land, all of us in the one spot, because it's it would be a great mutual assistance group. But taking that and that's what's nice about Prepper Camp is you can take what you've learned, take it back to your community, take it back to your neighbors, take it back to your friends, whatever, because they're going to be like, oh, what'd you learn? Or what'd you guys do? What Prepper Camp, haha, kind of make fun of you. But if you say, well, I learned how to forage, and I learned, hey, that mushroom right there, that's actually really good in this kind of food, or this is really good. When they actually hear that, a lot of people I've talked to, they've actually oh, you learned that? It's yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that's kind of cool. You turn their mind around on the whole joke that it's Prepper Camp.
Yeah.
I did want to take a second to address Joe's question. I mean, obviously, Piper picked all of her classes in advance. I'm assuming Gillian, you probably would have as well.
I looked at them. I didn't sit down like she did, but I knew which classes I was going to go for.
Yeah, I know when
they released the schedule. They released the schedule
2 weeks ahead. It's not.
I think it's
that far out.
Yeah, I think it's 2 weeks. Yeah, it's not that far out, but it's enough time where you can definitely look at the schedule and be like, oh, this looks interesting. This looks interesting. This sounds interesting. Mm-hmm. It gives you enough time to look at the schedule, because all 3 days are the same.
Yeah. So
that's what's nice, is you don't have to worry about 3 days of different schedules. You can look at one day. You can look at Friday, Saturday, and be like, all right, this looks cool. This looks cool. This looks cool. I usually, when Phil and I, when we did our first year, and then when we did our second year, first year it was this looks cool, and then we kind of went with the flow. The second year was okay, we know what to expect.
This is our everything out.
And we scheduled everything out to where you had your primary, your secondary, and your tertiary, to where I had, hey, I want to take, these are my main classes that I'm taking. No hands down, I'm not missing these classes. And after I took those classes, you know what? These classes, they kind of look pretty cool. So I took those, it's okay, I can take those classes. And then the next day you're okay, I kind of want to take these classes, but at the same time, I kind of want to sit my butt in front of the fire and not move.
That's a lot of what
and just
we
hang
did.
out. But that's the thing, and that's the thing with Phil and I with prepper camp. To me now, is the last 2 years I've tried to jump in to some classes and everything and learn, but a lot of it has just been networking. It's turned into more of I don't want to say a job, but it turned into more of, hey, who can I meet and can I get them on the show? And what do they bring? Like, I mean, I've had so many conversations with different people just because of the fact of, like, we're there. And that's the thing, is prepper camp's an icebreaker, because when you're there and someone else and you walk up, like, if I would never have known Phil, if I walked up to him and was like, I'm at prepper camp, you're at prepper camp, did we just become best friends? Like,
Yes, you did.
Like, yes, because it's like, holy crap, like, you're here, I'm here. Okay, obviously we have the same kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest thing with camp is, like, pretty much everybody there, besides probably some of the people that stay there year around maybe, or are there, and the campers that are built into the place.
Yeah.
Everybody there pretty much they have the same mindset. And so walking up to somebody is a lot easier than normal.
Yeah,
because
that's
you can
what
walk
I
up
was
to
saying.
them right, yeah. And so you can walk up to them and you can be like, hey, like, what brought you here? You know, like, hey, welcome to prepper camp. You know, what brought you here? What class are you interested in? And like, it's an icebreaker.
Yeah.
And so that was always really cool.
That was something that I mentioned. I put in a comment on y'all's live show that y'all did last week or this week. I would like to see a survey, and they probably do a survey, but I would like to see, with all these new people that were there, what brought them to prepper camp? At what stage are they at in prepping?
Yeah.
Are they beginners? Are they 17 years into this kind of thing? I would really enjoy seeing that kind of stuff from the people that attended prepper camp. I think it'd be super interesting. I do have to tell you, though, Andrew, we were sitting around the bonfire one night, and Ryan. It was Ryan who I was talking to about having my own class next year at prepper camp.
Ryan has got her about this close to talked into approaching Rick about her teaching her own class, because, like we've always said, everybody has their own area of interest and expertise. Go ahead.
Well, Andrew's going to be the first one to sign up for it because he loves spiders so much, but alternate proteins and cooking bugs and using bugs as a food source.
World Economic Forum approves.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so the democratic way of what they want to change everything to. So no, you're fine. I would be 100% open to signing up for that. I will bring my flamethrower to help cook.
No. No, you can't.
Why not? It's an open air grill.
Stop.
Yeah.
I guess.
So the thing is, though, the question though is will you be bringing insects to cook and eat in front of class?
I would totally have some that were either already made that you could sample.
I've eaten crickets before. Do it.
Well, I would bring all kinds of things that you could sample, not just crickets. I mean, I've eaten a lot of bugs that people would be, I mean, just saying that, people are going, ugh, oh my God, I can't believe that. But
you fed them to me under false pretense.
Well, they tasted like a sunflower
Schnozberries
seed.
taste like schnozberries.
Time out. If anybody's really curious, a cricket cooked onto the top of a cookie tastes like a cookie with stale pecans on it.
He's so over-exaggerating.
It did
it's not that bad.
taste good, and you didn't tell me I was eating bugs.
So
you pulled the DNC trick on me and say, "Hey, here, eat this," and stuffed it in my open mouth when I wasn't looking.
So when I used to work retail, and when I was in college, I used to work retail, and so we had crickets at the register that were ranch. They're flavored in ranch, and then there was one flavored in barbecue.
Yeah.
And we had them sitting there. They were packaged up, and they were all cooked up and everything. And I don't know how many things, like how many big ticket items I sold because I was like, if you buy that, I'll eat this entire thing of crickets. And then people were like, do it right now. And I'm like, let me ring you up first. Ring them up. Okay, here. I dump them in my hand and I'd eat them. They're like,
Good.
oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, I almost made a lady throw up one time because I was like, oh man. She goes, what? And I go like this. I'm like,
Oh, you're so bad.
oh, it's a leg. And
Stop.
she grabbed her and just ran out of the store.
Stop.
I agree with Joe. I'm eating the neighbor's dog first.
No, you're not eating the neighbor's dog first.
Why not?
Because there's plenty of food out there.
But it's irritating.
Yeah,
and it's
the
a
dog.
perfect excuse.
Yeah. No.
So there's
No.
that.
Honestly, like I think I think you should approach. I think you should get a lessons plan together and approach Rick.
You have some street
Do it.
cred because of who you know. I'll give you an inroad.
Yeah.
I mean, you could use one of. I know Phil has a good cast iron you could use.
It's
To
technically
cook the
her
bugs
cast
in.
iron, but
Oh, okay.
regardless.
Yeah. but
No, I mean,
I
you
would
don't
say-
have to convince me too hard because it's a subject matter that I'm very passionate about, and I never, I never saw it as a form of prepping in this lifestyle, but it absolutely can be, and I think should be.
Well, I mean, it can easily be used as an alternate food source to a point.
It depends on the food, Joe. I mean, the bug, Joe. Some of them are nice, a nice size to eat. They're not all too small. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Andrew.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. I just was just saying, like, it in a world where food is scarce or you're foraging or something like that. I mean,
Right.
why not forage and say, hey, I got these mushrooms and I got these vegetables. Why not
Throw
grab
some-
a couple spiders or a couple freaking slugs or something like that
Well, and to that note,
next to your deer meat?
if you're talking about
Right.
foraging for mushrooms, I mean, a lot of the same places you find mushrooms, you're very likely to find bugs.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's what
Well,
I'm saying
yeah.
though. Is while you're foraging for one, forage for more, forage for other stuff. Because I mean, if you think about it, if you look at the prices of food right now, I'm not saying like I'm going out to freaking dig up grubs and start eating that.
No,
I'll
but
pay
you
the high
could go to
price of burger.
PetSmart and get some crickets.
That is true. What kind of snake do you have? Yeah, he walks on two legs.
The two-legged kind.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the world today and like the food shortages and all that stuff, it's going to come down to a point where we need to. I'm not saying run out and eat bugs, but we need to come together as a community, and we need to start looking at what it's going to take to survive. Because I mean, look at the price of chicken. I mean, it's going through the roof. Look at the price of beef. Pork is down a little bit, but look at the price of pork from last year. It's high. You're
Yeah.
looking at all these prices, and it's like, okay, like let's look at our community and what can we do? Like I really feel like we're gonna start. And honestly, like I'm not trying to preach or nothing, but like this is where church comes into. Church comes into it, and I've been going back to church, and like my mom and dad, they've been going for over a year now, and my dad and I had a good conversation about this. It's like church. If you go to a small enough church, or if it doesn't have to be a small church, but if you go to a church, a church is a community.
Right.
That's what it should be. That's what it's based on. And when I went a couple weeks ago. The guy was talking about, the pastor was really talking about how churches have gotten away from community. The church is the person, it's the people, it's the body of the people. It's not a building. And how the community needs to, the community, needs to rally together and support one another. And like my dad and I we're talking about, he's in a small church, but he's got farmers, like a bunch of farmers in this church. They all raise different things such as cattle. They raise chickens. They raise hogs. They have corn. They raise all these. They have all these different crops. They raise all these different like the livestock and stuff like that. And I really feel like it's going to come down to that coming down to the wire. It's going to come down to community and the community that you build. Because if I can go to a farmer that I met in church, it's not making him any more trustworthy that I met on the street, but I can go to him, and if I can build that relationship with him around this, it's like, hey, I'm looking for a half a beef. How much would it cost for me to buy one of your cows? I have some other friends. We're looking at buying a cow. How much? I'm looking at buying some chickens. How much? I'm looking at buying a hog. How much? Fruits, vegetables, stuff like that. Anybody you know who has a greenhouse? Mm-hmm. Anybody I got a coworker that he raises chickens, and that's where I get my eggs from him. because I get a dozen eggs every couple weeks from him, from his chickens, and that right there is kind of like what prepper camp is.
Yeah.
And it's a community. It's a community of people that are from all over the United States and even the world. But it's a community of people that you can sit there, and if you, like that person from Australia, if you got her number, you could text her and be like, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on over there? What's the climate over there? And you can talk to her about certain things. And it sucks because she's not here, but you just took your mutual assistance group and you made it bigger.
Yeah.
So where you can ask her for advice. If she knows something that you don't, you can ask her for advice. And that's what a mutual assistant group is. It's asking for people it's not only is it help as a community, but it's looking for somebody like, hey, this and this is the issue I'm having. What can I do? Because I know if I wanted to make a greenhouse, I could put an email up to Rick and I could have a conversation with him about building a greenhouse.
Yeah.
He's in my mutual assistance group, even though I live in Michigan and, he lives where he does. Phil, I can talk to you about prepping in certain climates and stuff like that. Like your mutual assistance group doesn't have to just to be the group of people in your little block radius or whatever it is. It's people that you've met. It's your friendships. It's everything growing out, and that's what prepper camp is.
Yeah, that's the feeling that I got when I went there, and I've talked to a lot of the people that were there. So we've done an episode with Jane and Aunt Doris and me and Jordan, and at that point I had never met any of them. I eventually met Jordan before I met Aunt Doris, and Aunt Doris I just met at prepper camp, and it felt like I had known these women for so long. I mean, the hug that I got from Jane was, I haven't seen my aunt in 5 years, and I finally get to see my aunt, over the fence hugging, and she's running around crazy because it's prepper camp, but it was that whole camaraderie, village that you're talking about, and that is one of the reasons why I fell in head first and knee deep, or however you want to say it, because I felt like it was safe, and I could talk about the things that I wanted to talk about without being overly criticized or judged or looked at crazy or whatever. So yeah, totally loved prepper camp.
Good.
5 stars, would go again. Totally recommend.
Good.
But I think it's something too that we can, as the Matter of Facts family, and our camping trip incorporate as well. And there was a lot of talk about that around the bonfire for our spring trip, to kind of do a mini prepper camp with the people that come to that. And I think that's such a great idea. Like, we could totally hone in on everyone's skills and things like that. And maybe one year we just talk about one thing or whatever. That's up for.
Well, everybody pick maybe something, and you don't have to make it like 45 minutes long. But hey, this is how I start a fire.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is, or get a group of people together. Hey, let's practice starting fires. Like stuff like
right.
Something small.
The funny part of it is like that kind of unofficially happens anytime you get a bunch of us together, as we start showing each other, either we start sharing knowledge, or we start sharing gear and showing each other how we do things, and like that happened very unofficially. But yeah, there was discussion around the campfire about, hey, why don't we, since we've started doing this patron only trip in the spring, why don't we integrate some kind of educational aspect into that, where like, whether we do, like you said, whether we do like a half a day class on something, or whether it's just anything. But I hate to say it this way, but like, you really can't get more than 2 of us in a room together for any amount of time before we start sharing stuff with each other.
Oh yeah, but that's a group of people that's how we are, though. I mean, that's the thing, is like, you're going to start BSing and hey, I've been doing this, you've been doing this, whatever. So, I mean, I just want to throw it out there, I guess. So anybody who's listening who is new or doesn't exactly know, matter of facts, I didn't get to go last year because of scheduling conflict with work and stuff like that. But this year I am going.
Yay.
Is we have a Matter of Facts camping group, and it happens, around springtime. But you have to be a Patreon to go. That's one of the stipulations.
We are making some exceptions for like the PBN hosts.
Yes.
But it is it is for the patrons, and it is a very tightly controlled small guest list. It really at that point it tends to be just the patrons and the PBN host, because like the PBN hosts, frankly, they're practically part of the extended family. One or two people I make an exception for happily. But it's people that would we camp with the prepper camp, that they're family. Right. We can't kick them out.
Right. But no, that's what I'm saying though, is so if you're interested in the Matter of Facts camping trip, you got to be a Patreon. Like, you have to be a Patreon going up to the camping trip. So if you're interested in it, I mean, support the show, become a Patreon. Phil and I definitely both will be very happy if you want to support the show in that way.
And to answer Kyle's question, I don't have the dates right in front of me, but no, I don't even want to say it on the show, but it is on Patreon.com. Seriously, if you go look at if you're a patron, log in. And I don't remember when exactly it was. If you have trouble finding it, y'all know how to get a hold of me or Andrew, and I'll try to give you a timestamp and a date to help you locate it. But there is a post on our Patreon page. It's hidden from the public. You have to be a Patreon to see it, and it has the location that anybody that went last year would know, because we're going to the same spot this year, and the date and some of the details. I will say that, the more we talk about doing this year after year and making this an annual thing, we're really talking a lot about, for 2023, we've kind of already locked in a place, but for 24, we're really talking about taking it on the road, moving it somewhere else, possibly even up to Michigan, to your neck of the road, Andrew, because...
I know! Isn't that awesome? We talked to...
Here's the
Randy
thing.
Randy has the best
it was Uncle Randy's, Yeah.
No, I guarantee I could call him right now, and I could be like, "Hey, this is the idea," and he'd be like,
"Oh, he knows the idea.
It was his idea.
He knows the idea."
No, he has the perfect
He's so
spot.
excited.
But come to Michigan.
But on a serious note, a lot of this really just driven by the fact that our big friend group and our patrons, they're spread all over the country, and not all locations at all times are convenient for everybody. So if we take the chance to move this around, and maybe it's been mentioned, if we did in the summer, more people would be able to attend. And I'm like, well, if we do in the summer, we really have to go way up north to where it's cool, hence Michigan. But if we bounce it around from spring to summer, if we bounce around the location, we can accommodate more people and catch more people year after year.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. That's a great idea. So, but anyway, if you want, but if you want in on the details for the prepper camp, for the Matter of Facts trip, you become a Patreon. Phil and I, Phil knows more about it than I do, but become a Patreon. I am so supportive and appreciative, rather, of the support that we get from our Patreons, and. But no, hopefully we got to figure out the details with the camping and all that stuff with prepper camp, because that'll determine whether or not I go again next year, depending on what happens with that. But no, I'm bummed that I missed it this year. But like I said, there were some things, especially just with scheduling conflicts and. Vacation and stuff like that. If I wanted to do prepper camp and the MOF trip, I had to give up something now, and that's basically why I couldn't go this year. So I can carry a week over a vacation next year, and then I can do both. So
there you go.
So that's all I got. To wrap this up, give everybody your sales pitch for somebody that's still kind of interested in this whole prepper camp thing, but they're not sold yet.
Me?
Yeah, you're the first timer.
A sales
person behind
pitch? Well, I thought he was talking to you, Andrew. There are two other people on this episode.
But there's only one guest.
One beautiful guest, I gotta say.
Oh my God. Stop it. Am I red?
As a crawfish.
No.
Stop.
No, I don't see it. Oh, no, there it is.
Shut up, Andrew. You're not coming on the Matter of Facts camping trip anymore. Cannot stay in our yurt.
He's already invited.
Too bad, I've uninvited you.
I'll become a Patreon.
I guess I don't know what my sales pitch would be. Prepper camp, I was apprehensive going into it thinking, oh my God, this is going to be so lame. Not really so lame, but I didn't think I was going to enjoy myself as much as I did. I loved the fact that there were normal people there, because we are normal and we have been told that we're normal. And I don't want anyone to ever feel like because their preps are different from our preps or from another person's preps, that they're not worthy enough to go to prepper camp, or that you're going to be judged. But I mean, it was a joke between me and Phil that we brought air mattresses, but so did most every other person in a tent. They brought air mattresses. They were in RVs. They were, some of them were staying in cabins. So it wasn't, you don't have to be this person that roughs it and only bathes once a month and, things like that kind of thing. You only eat what you kill in the woods kind of thing. We're all normal. I brought makeup. Yes, I brought makeup. I slept on an air mattress. If I had an RV, babe, you would have been sleeping in an RV. Heck yeah. If there was a cabin available, yeah, you probably would have been in a cabin. Well, I would have been in a cabin. He would have been in a tent. But I just don't want people to think I'm not a prepper like they are or like other people are. So I'm not part of that group, because everyone brings something to the table and we can all learn from each other. I'm taking away enthusiasm from that, and then learning new things that I've always been interested in, but never gave myself the
Permission
to dive deeper into. So, and prepper camp did that for me, because there were so many people there that were just like me, and I loved it.
Yeah, and before we sign off, I think you sold it. But before we sign off, I do want to say, like, it's funny because you're like, I brought makeup, I brought mattress, I brought this, and this. Phil and I, ever since day one, ever since the first year, I got this from the guys I work with and everything. It's just like, okay, so prepper camp, this, and this. What'd you guys do? What'd you guys eat? And it's just like, well, the first night we had steak. The first night we had this.
Right?
We had this. And it's just like, well, wait, it's prepper camp. Shouldn't you guys be like living off the grid? Like,
MREs
be, like,
and stuff.
MREs, yeah. Well, no. Did I eat MREs? Yes, I ate MREs. I ate Mountain House. But you're camping. Have fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, everybody brings food or whatever, and we cook up like big meals, and
We are.
And yeah.
We are. I have a job.
That makes you civilized.
I'm responsible for 150 children.
Oh wow.
Well, not solely responsible,
they're not
but
all ours.
they're not. I mean, we are civilized. I drive a really nice car that I've always wanted, and I have a degree from a university, and
normal people.
I'm normal.
Right. No, and that's the thing. So, if you didn't get to make it to prepper camp up until now, hopefully, like I said, depending on what's going on next year with the campsite and all that stuff, hopefully see you there. If you're a Patreon and you are coming out to the Matter of Facts camping trip, I look forward to seeing you and meeting you. If you are not a Patreon yet and you want to become one, I am very appreciative and thankful now if you want to become one. And if you end up becoming a Patreon now and you come to the trip, then I can look forward to meeting you and all that stuff now too. So, but no, Gillian, thanks for coming on. I'm glad glad you came on, and I'm glad
Always here.
Sucks that I missed it, but I'm glad you finally made it to prepper camp. I'm glad that Piper finally made it to prepper camp, and I look forward to seeing you guys next year at some point, whether it's at camp or if I decide to fly back down and visit again, because I'm getting itchy.
Hey, look, I know we're trying to get out of here, but that was another discussion of having this big crawfish boil for everyone, even our friend in Australia, to come back for a crawfish boil. So we got to do that. We have to figure out a way to get everybody home
right.
for the crawfish boil.
Yeah. Two things. So Joe's asking what campground is it? It is Orchard Lake in Saluda, North Carolina. If you get a little turned around, just go to preppercamp.com. All the information for the campsite is right there. And otherwise, I think Gillian kind of hammered it home. It doesn't really matter what your interest is. and you might come away interested in things you didn't know you were interested in. So, I mean, the only thing I can tell you is that if you are even remotely interested in being more self-reliant or enhancing your survival skills, or even just for the pure enjoyment of learning stuff that you're not going to learn in a school and you might read in a book, and just expanding your horizons and seeing all these skills that are out there, especially a lot of them that are almost being lost in time, and the current generation's not being taught these things. So, I mean, I don't see a downside to going to prepper camp and learning.
I would definitely go to the website, sorry to interrupt, preppercamp.com, right?
Yep.
And see if the schedule is still posted and look at what the classes were this year. Because it wasn't just foraging and herbal medicine and anything like that. There was all sorts of classes that I want to take next year. Just didn't have the time.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, like, the presenters, the vendors, the attendees, everybody out there has something to offer, and that's the one thing that I keep telling people is that prepper camp is conspicuously devoid of gatekeepers. The average person you walk up to out there, whether they've been in this lifestyle for a minute or their entire lives, they will happily just have you drink from a fire hose, telling you everything they know about whatever subject you're interested in, because we all have that common interest and that common want to share the knowledge and help other people be better prepared. It's just one of those weird facets of this community. So if you're a little curious, dip your toe in the water and understand that we're not going to try to brainwash you into living in a bunker with the rest of us. We're all pretty normal, nice people. We all have jobs, and
Or are we?
Well, but it's like Gillian said. We all have jobs. We all have some of us, most of us have 401ks. Our kids play Little League together with your kids. Like, preppers are pretty normal people, and we, by far and large, as long as you don't have a beard down to your belly button like some people, we blend into the community pretty well. And you'd be very surprised to realize just how normal the people you'll meet at prepper camp really are, and how normal the concerns they have that drove them into prepping are. For a lot of us, it was blizzards and hurricanes and tornadoes, and for some people it's other things, but it all comes down to the same thing. We all want to know how to take care of our families. But Matter of Facts podcast heading out of the door.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Always our pleasure.
Bye, guys.